My apologies, Chair. At this point, the meeting is in session now. Apologies for the late notification.
Okay. Welcome to the Complete Streets Commission's November 8th regular commission meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with commission members, city staff, and members of the public participating in accordance with public health guidelines. I would like to introduce Complete Streets Commission members and city staff present. I'm Chair Jackie Sebrian. Commissioners present include Brian Altman, Sally Cole, Christopher Coleman, and Ross Silverstein. Commissioners absent include Katie Baruzzi and Lizbeth King. City staff present include Kevin Chen, Matthew Hugh, and Hugh Lauch. Matthew, could you please provide instructions to the commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Yes, thank you, Chair Sebrian and members of the Complete Streets Commission. Welcome everyone to the November 8th Complete Streets Commission meeting, and thank you for attending. For members of the public who wish to provide public comment for any item on tonight's agenda, after the chair calls for public comment on that item, virtual attendees on Zoom may engage the raised hand feature. Or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you are participating in person, please wait for the chair to call your name. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. That concludes the instructions, and I return the meeting to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Under reports and announcements, city staff and commission members may communicate general information of interest regarding matters within the jurisdiction of the commission. No commission discussion or action can occur on any of the presented items. Kevin, do you have any reports and announcements?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. But before I go into my typical update to the commission, I would like to kind of go off script a little bit and introduce someone new in the audience. Her name is Azalea Mitch. And you're wondering, who's Azalea Mitch? Azalea Mitch, a former Menlo Park employee / Menlo Park resident, is now our newly appointed Public Works Director. So if you recall, this was previously the position of Nikki Nagaya, who then moved on to our Deputy City Manager. And now we have Azalea with us. I'll let Azalea take it over.
You don't need this, right? Hi, good evening, Commissioners. Azalea Mitch. Like Kevin just said, I was previously 5 years ago the city engineer, left, became the Public Works Director for the city of San Mateo. But I'm now here in Menlo Park. I live in the Willows. I bike into work, love it, and I have a 13-year-old at Hillview. So really happy to be back, a lot of great staff, and I just came by to say hello. Great to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, awesome. In this case, sorry, give me 1 second. Been having a little bit of a technical difficulty here. Here we go. So just a couple quick updates I would like to bring to the commission. First and foremost, the City Council did approve the Menlo Park MPCC parking management plan. So this is an item that came to the commission a while ago. And if you recall, essentially the plan has a few elements. One is prioritizing some parking spaces for the Beechwood School. Also, we designated 4 high turnover parking spots, 15-minute intervals. And then with the idea that we would then kind of observe the center once it's open, all the programs are up and running. And at that point, we would then continue to observe and make tweaks here or there accordingly. The other thing that we'll be doing as well is wayfinding signs, offsite wayfinding signs. Those will be many of the elements that we have discussed here got approved by the City Council. The second item, the City Council did get a study session on the Vision Zero action plan. I know some of you might have been at the meeting. Generally, we received really positive feedback from the City Council with a few items, smaller items that we're gonna bring back and then work into the plan eventually. So with that, I will go ahead and conclude my announcements. Thank you.
I just wanted to add to the recap that Kevin gave about last night's city council meeting with regard to their review of the elements of the Vision Zero action plan that were presented by Hugh and Dana, the consultant. I attended the meeting and made a public comment for the sole purpose of telling the council that, in my opinion, and being part of the working group of Vision Zero, that the work that was done by staff and by the consultant was in really excellent quality. The analysis and the collection of data was done so thoroughly. And the other thing I felt really strongly about was that I know the commission had seen the data that was produced. It's so easy, I think, when you learn that, 80% of serious collisions occur in sort of 20% of the roads, to focus on that 20% of the roads. And the high crash corridors are really important, but I very much appreciated the Vision Zero action plan work that was presented last night that also said there are risk areas that we know of, and let's be proactive around several kinds of situations, including signalized intersections and school areas. And I thought, Hugh, you and your team did a really nice job of sort of highlighting those and making sure that they got priority as well. I also just want to mention that you don't go to a lot of city council meetings like this, but the city council members, especially including Mayor Willison, who's been involved in these issues for a very long time, like really, really praised the work that they'd done and received the Vision Zero action plan so far very well. So I want to make sure that was noted. Thank you.
Just a quick follow-up on that. There's a meeting tomorrow at 5:30 for the public about Vision Zero action plan as well.
Okay. Under public comment, members of the public may address the Complete Streets Commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. You are not required to provide your name or city of residence, but it is helpful. The commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. Matthew, can you please call for public comment?
Thank you, Chair. For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raised hand feature, or if you are calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you are participating in person, please wait for the chair to call your name. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. Seeing no virtual raised hands, I return the meeting to the chair. Thank you.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I actually do have a public comment, just in general. Not sure if people saw, but Palo Alto just yesterday, their city council voted to keep the Cal Ave pedestrian street permanent forever. So there was a debate on the table on whether or not they should do another study for another year, which was going to cost about $350,000 in consulting fees. And even though there was disagreement, they decided to make it permanent, and that will kind of not have cars for the foreseeable future.
Thank you. All right, under regular business, the commission considers recommendations from city staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require commission approval. The first regular business item tonight is accept the Complete Streets Commission minutes for October 11th, 2023. Any clarification from the commission before I take public comment? Okay, Matthew, can you please call for public comment on this item?
Thank you, Chair. For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you are participating in person, please wait for the chair to call your name. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. I see one raised hand from this phone number ending in 3649.
Sorry, the audience that And the phone number ends 3649. You are now, should be able to speak if you turn on your mic.
Okay, hi. My name's Neil. I live on Middle Avenue. My concern with how the study's going forward is that it was supposed to start during the summer when schools are out in Nealon Park, which
Excuse
has
me,
the-
sir.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sorry for the interruption, but I believe the item that you're speaking about is actually going to be the next item. So if
sorry.
I may just ask you to hold off until we get to that item, and then we'll have the public speakers that are here for that item tonight. They'll be able to speak at that time.
Okay.
Apologies for the confusion.
Seeing no more other virtually raised hands, I return the meeting to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Do we have any commission comments on the agenda? All right, do I have a motion and second to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept them.
I'll second.
Great. So we have a motion by co-chair, and then a second by the chair, Cyprian. For those that would like to vote yes for the minutes, if you can please raise your hand. I'm seeing unanimous. Great, thank you.
All right, Kevin Chen, Senior Transportation Engineer, can you please present the next item, E2, provide feedback on the Middle Avenue Buffered Bike Lane Pilot Evaluation Methodology?
Yes, great. Thank you very much. Just bear with me for a sec as I try to share my screen with you all. Okay. Confirming that the audience, okay, great. They are seeing the front page or the first page of my presentation. Awesome. Yeah. So again, my name is Kevin Chen, Senior Transportation Engineer with the City of Menlo Park. Obviously very happy to be here tonight to make this presentation. It's a long time coming. I think the commission here have seen the progress of this project from beginning to end. Obviously more to come with the next couple of years as we move into design, testing of the pilot, et cetera, et cetera. So tonight, the item here is to really focusing on the evaluation methodology of the pilot. And this is specifically the buffer bike lane that the City Council have directed us to move forward with. So with tonight, sorry, making sure that the page are navigating. Excellent. So for the item tonight, just quickly running down the agenda, briefly provide a background for the project. I know some of you are very in tune with this, but for a member of the audience, they might not have quite a history. So a brief history on the project itself. Also, just the overall summary. As I mentioned, the item tonight is about the pilot. However, this is one of two elements of the Complete Streets project. So I'll briefly go over what that project is about. And then finally, moving back to the pilot itself, I'm going to briefly talk about the pilot evaluation methodology, which includes both data collection as well as public outreach. And then finally, just looking for your feedback tonight. And I'll have a list of questions to help open the dialogue a little bit. So as you all know, long time coming for this project. This project started early 2022 with our first community meeting occurred on March 3rd. I remember that night very well. It was a rainy night in front of Nealon Park. Essentially, kickstarted the project from a community standpoint. As we kind of went through all the planning process, outreach, which included a survey, online survey as well. Basically, we came to the Complete Streets Commission and ultimately the City Council with various alternatives for both traffic calming measures as well as a bike lane. As I mentioned before, the Middle Avenue Complete Streets project has two elements. One element is a traffic calming element, and this spans along the entire stretch of Middle. The second element is a bike lane. So on October 18, 2022, the City Council approved the traffic calming measures that city staff recommended. Later on, I do have a slide that shows some of the recommendations from a high level. It obviously will be public record as well, but then I just wanted to kind of briefly go over the backgrounds here. February 14, 2023, which is earlier this year, obviously, the city council did approve the bike lane pilot as well. So at that time, the city council direction to staff was to remove parking on both sides of Middle Avenue in order to install a buffer bike lane in both directions. And with that direction in mind, staff went back to the table, started the design of the pilot, and then consulting, getting contractors on board to do the installation. And luckily, as of October 2023, we have completed the entire stretch of Middle Avenue from Olive all the way to El Camino Real with buffer bike lanes. And below are two images at two specific locations. The one to the left is in front of the church, and then the one to the right is in front of the tennis court or / pickleball court as well.
And I guess that second photo, Kevin, is important in part. I know Ross wasn't on the council commission yet, but because the parking changed on Nealon, which was a big.
Thank you for notifying that. Yes, one of the elements that we had to do is converting the perpendicular parking in front of Nealon Park to parallel parking, which obviously meant the loss of approximately 30 or something spaces like that. But we are looking at trying to reconfigure the Nealon Park parking lot to try to maximize the space there to hopefully offset some of that parking loss, and still work in progress. So again, just for the benefit of maybe some of the audience that might not know the project completely, Middle Avenue Complete Street project has a few elements. The first one is the signal analysis and geometric design of El Camino and Middle. As we all know, with 500 El Camino Real coming online, the intersection of El Camino and Middle, what used to be kind of a T intersection, is now a standard four-legged intersection. So we're using this project as an opportunity to kind of look at the intersection, see if there's anything that we can make it a little bit better from a signal operation standpoint, as well as a geometric design standpoint. So tackling it from both elements. And then the kind of the sub-bullet is just some of the elements that we're looking into. Happy to go into a little bit more details later on if you desire, but again, tonight's focus is on the bike lane itself.
Can I just interrupt with a clarifying question? Is that okay? I'm sorry. Maybe I'll try to hold the other ones I have, but in that first bullet though, is it accurate to say that those suggestions around the intersection of El Camino and Middle have not been approved by the council yet?
Have not been, I'm sorry?
Approved by the council yet? Right?
That's correct, because
Okay.
yeah, that is analysis that needs to be done first. Yep.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, traffic calming measure design, we are officially moving into that component as well. And then finally, the last bullet is the permanent buffer bike lane design, which obviously will be depending on the outcome of the pilot, which is why we're here tonight. As I mentioned, there is an illustration here that sort of showcase both elements of the Complete Streets project. This exhibit is readily available on the project website as well. So I encourage everybody to jump on the project website to learn more about it. Okay, great. Diving into the meat of the presentation tonight, the pilot evaluation methodology. As I mentioned before, and in the staff report, there's two elements that we are bringing forward for your feedback tonight. The first is data collection. As we all know, in order for a pilot to be successful, we want to make sure that we have adequate data to assess the before and after picture of the pilot. With the pilot, we typically want it to go, a minimum of 6 months. Obviously, it could be longer depending on the conditions, but generally speaking, 6 months is kind of that sweet spot right there. And therefore, as you can see from the table in front of you, staff is recommending a series of different types of data going from roadway to intersection volumes. Roadway would typically be a 24-hour count with 15-minute increments for the entire 24 minutes. Intersection volumes typically focus on peak hours. So we're looking at 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Those counts typically will have turning movements, meaning we'll know how many cars are making a left, going a through, and a right, and that spans for both vehicle pedestrians, and bikes as well. Also, we're going to be collecting vehicular speed data. Obviously, that's one thing that we're trying to achieve with the traffic calming project, is to be able to lower the speed. I do have to add a little bit of a caveat that it is unlikely by February 2024 that we would have the traffic calming measures in, but regardless, we would still want to collect the speed data just to have a snapshot of what that speed at that time would be. But recognizing that at that time, we probably would still be either in the design phase of the traffic calming measures or maybe toward the end of the design phase. Obviously, with any pilot evaluations, we want to make sure that we have records of collisions or reported collisions at least. So in this case, we're recommending a span of July of this year to June of next year. Of course, with July essentially being the month that we completed 2/3 of that Middle Avenue pilot. Finally, we're also going to do a parking occupancy. As I mentioned before, in order for us to install the bike lanes, the city council's direction was at the time was to remove parking on both sides. So we wanted to make sure to capture the impact of that action. And as you can see from footnote number 2, our recommendation is to look at all the all the crossing streets that are touching Middle Avenue, go out to a span of approximately 500 feet. And then at that time, the occupancy survey, what it will do is really looking at how many cars are parking on those stretches of the minor streets. So it gives us an idea of, where the cars are going, et cetera, as a result of the pilot. And then finally, we are going to publish a public feedback survey. And for those that are in the audience that have access to the staff report, we did attach a draft survey in the attachment as well. So definitely feel free to kind of flip through those pages, take a look at those questions. Obviously, with any survey, our goal is to capture all aspects that is impacted by the pilot. So driving, parking, bike safety, pedestrian safety, et cetera, pedestrian crossing, middle safety, et cetera. We wanted to make sure we capture those as well. So this is a quick snapshot of staff's recommendation in terms of the data and when we anticipate to collect them. And here's just a quick snapshot of some of the where we're going to collect the roadway data and the intersection data. There's going to be a combination of actual physical counts, as well as taking advantage of the big data system that many of us have heard about to have a more comprehensive picture of the volumes. The second element that we are looking for your feedback tonight would be the publication, public notification. As many of you know, with a pilot, we want to make sure we get the word out as far as possible, maximize the response rate. So staff is recommending essentially a full menu of public outreach platforms, ranging from utilizing the city's official online social media platform, the email list that we have accumulating for just the Middle Avenue project itself, obviously with many of the stakeholders along Middle, and then the key stakeholders on the parallel streets, we have communications with them. So we're going to continue to have those communications. We also anticipate to, with the public survey, to put out a couple those changeable big messenger signs, which is the kind of the picture below that. Just really making sure that not only do we capture Middle Avenue residents, but also the residents that are adjacent to Middle Avenue, or if you're a biker or a kind of a commuter or a student that really rides on Middle but aren't a Middle resident, then you would know that the survey is available as well. So we're just trying to make sure that we maximize the response rate whenever we can. And again, happy to take any input from the commission if you have any additional thoughts or opinions about the outreach methodology. Okay, so before I conclude, just wanted to present a few questions to hopefully get the conversation going. The very obvious one would be, first and foremost, are the proposed data collection and public meeting adequate? So not only are we going to collect data, we actually do plan on having 2 additional public meetings that are kind of project related. One is going to be in person. The other one is going to be virtual meetings. We do anticipate both meetings to occur probably sometime around February as well, just so that we can corral all the effort into a single month. Is the public outreach process adequate? Again, that goes back to some of our recommended methodologies to get the words out. Also, as I mentioned before, we do have the attached the draft survey as part of the staff report. So the last question here would be, what's your opinion about the draft survey, whether or not there's any modifications that you would like to see, and then before we actually may finalize it and broadcast it. So before I conclude my presentation, just wanted to kind of briefly update you on what we have received from staff's perspective, from the public since the publication of the staff report. So staff received several emails from the residents of Menlo Park or patrons of Middle Avenue. Generally speaking, we receive about half positive, half with concerns. And the concerns are generally on parking availability. So generally the parking being gone along Middle, impacting the side streets. And then also there were some concerns about the kind of weighing the pros and cons, if you will. How is this project benefiting? Exactly how many bicyclists are being benefited as part of this project? So there's definitely some questions about that as well. So again, all of those we're hoping to be able to answer them with the post-pilot survey, as well as the data collection. So definitely getting a lot of good questions from the residents, and we're noting them one by one. And all of that is now going into that post-pilot evaluation effort as well. So I just wanted to let you know that we have been hearing from the residents as well.
So when staff turns around and presents to us and to the public, here's the answers to the survey, here's the kind of feedback we've been getting, et cetera, folks who are emailing in will be incorporated into that somehow?
Right. I would say, generally speaking, many, if not all of the questions that I have received so far, minus the opinions, obviously, but more questions about, how many bikers will this benefit? Right. How is the parking situation going to change for residents? Those questions are going to be, we should be able to answer those questions with the data that we're recommending to collect. Yeah. Okay. And then, of course, with the public survey, in addition to many of the multiple choices that you see in the staff report, we'll also have an open-ended space that is available for people to express their opinions that is outside of those questions as well. Okay. So I guess I'll officially end my presentation and open to any questions. Thank you. I apologize to jump in for the audience. So at this point, staff will be taking clarifying questions from the commission. We'll do our best to answer them. And then once the clarifying questions are answered, we'll turn the table back to the public commenters. At that point, they'll be able to kind of speak, share their opinions about the project, and then we'll come back to the commission for deliberation.
Okay.
Any clarifying questions before we go to public comment?
I had some. Go ahead, Brian.
I guess I had just a conceptual question. Middle is on the Vision Zero critical plan, right?
That's correct.
Is there, what do you think about co-branding the survey and maybe the website as Vision Zero as well as just Middle? Just to kind of link those two things together and just simplify it for the community. I was amazed at some of the statistics that came up in Vision Zero regarding just how bad Middle is. And I thought it might be an opportunity for you to get the Vision Zero brand and message across as part of the survey, maybe as an introduction to the survey, saying, these are the kind of things that we found on Middle Avenue, just some basic statistics, maybe using the survey as a kind of an education tool as well.
Yeah, I think many of the kind of statistics that were included in the Vision Zero were also presented, maybe not the entire scope, but partially. For example, I think back in when we had our March 2022 public community meeting, at that time, we have data on volume, we have data on collision that's along Middle Avenue for the last 5 years. So kind of a summary of all those information, again, available online on the project website as well. But I think your point is very well taken. It is something that we're thinking about as well. We do want to at least keep the survey, because the survey is intended for the evaluation of the pilot. We do want to keep that message very clear, but I think your point is well taken, and we're
There's
trying to combine the two
opportunity.
whenever we could. Yeah.
So all this is summarized on the Middle Avenue project website, webpage. Could you bring that up for me?
While it is, yes.
Just what I can find it under the capital improvement plan, but I can't find I'm sure remedial.
You're talking about
The reason I'm commenting is that it ought to be really easy for the community. There's been a huge amount of community feedback. And I just think it ought to be just ruthlessly simple for somebody to go, oh, what's been done before? What's being done?
Mhm.
Just a kind of a landing page that's really just ruthlessly simple to get.
On the main Menlo Park webpage, like an image on the side that says Middle Avenue.
And, because there's so much good work that's been done. I mean, we've collected a lot of data from the community.
Mhm.
And just kind of keeping it in, consolidating it down into an area where it's very easy for somebody to come and say, and I think it's an educational opportunity
Yeah.
as well as a branding opportunity.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll speak to that, and then Hugh, feel free to jump in as well. Perhaps I think what we can do is maybe as part of tonight's feedback to get from the commission, what do you think the type of information would be helpful on the website? I think right now, our front page, we have a highlight of the Neyland Park frontage change, because that's kind of the first and foremost.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah, while I will say that everything is on the webpage, I will be the first to admit that since we have so many meetings, so many staff reports, it's going to be a very tall task to put everything on there.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking kind of as a resident, maybe as one of the feedbacks from you tonight would be, what do you think would be kind of the best information that we can pull out and put on the front page of that website?
Or perhaps you could subtask us to do that in representation to the community and propose it back to you.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So like tonight would be helpful. Like, for example, I mentioned we had a storyboard back in March of 2022, where the storyboard had volume and collision data at that time. Also some of the existing Middle Avenue information, it's kind of buried under project history as a link. We're more than happy to kind of pull that up and put that on the forefront of a link. My main objective is not to overwhelm people. There's a lot of information. I recognize that, and I actually got a couple emails saying that very thing. So I myself had to provide some of the links to those residents as well. But I do want to at least keep it basic enough where it's not too overwhelming
Yeah.
for the residents as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think my recommendation would be to take if the commission or a portion of the commission or subcommittee or something is going to take a look at the website and propose, put together a recommendation to staff around this is the type of information we think should be on it. I think that should be separate from this meeting, because I don't know, just my own self, that I would have the bandwidth to look at this now in the meeting and propose things.
Yep.
I think that sounds like something that should be done in a more considered way outside of this
Yeah.
meeting.
We're happy to do that offline.
But
Yep.
yeah, so I guess the way I would leave that is that, Brian, if you or others, including myself, whatever, want to reach out to Kevin and say, yes, I'm interested in looking over, the website and proposing data. I was proposing what I would want to put on that.
Guys, we're still in clarifying questions.
I'd be interested in doing that, but it's just a general comment. It's more of a general thing. Is it easy for the community or people interested in Middle Avenue to go and get the information that's already been done? Right? Because there's been a lot of good stuff done. It's a more of a general kind of comment. Is it something that maybe we could help with? But it's hard to get to it, right? And so
I would
you end up with
say-
redundant questions and repetitive surveys and
Yeah, I would say that
that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I would say the main meat and potato of the website, obviously the first couple paragraph where we present the latest status, the project history subtab is a really good valuable source where we have links to staff reports and a quick one sentence summary of what that staff report entails. I think beyond that, I would be very hard pressed to want to put actual data on the webpage, because then at that point, that web page is going to be very, very long. So at least our attempt with the web page was to have a kind of a table with links to staff report, links to presentations, and then the second column would be one or two sentence of the action that were taken by the commission or by the city council that night. And then that way, if they are interested in that topic, they can click on those links and try to seep through the information themselves. Yeah, so that's kind of the layout right now. Again, I'm a little worried about putting actual information on the website itself, because at that point, the expansion of it is just going to be very cumbersome.
Honestly, I think the weird determining
Yeah.
course.
But let's do that offline. I think that's
Let's do
a
it
great
offline, yeah.
idea. Yeah.
I do want to make sure that we stick to the clarifying questions for
Agreed.
this
Yep.
part,
Agreed.
and then all of this extra discussion
Yep.
after public comment.
I agree.
Thank you.
I do have some clarifying questions. And I'm looking at page E-2.2 of the staff report. And my first clarifying questions have to do, the top of the page, pilot evaluation. When it says in early 2023, the staff did, established baseline data, traffic volume data. I guess I'm curious whether, did the staff also establish baseline data around speeds and parking? Because that wasn't referred to, but you're gathering data about speeds and parking early next year.
Mhm. Yeah, so we definitely have the speed data back in about 20. We have, and so we have very different type of speed data. Certainly, we have like 2019 where we did like a very citywide effort. We also had like more recent data where we utilize big data, where they collect essentially kind of cell phone information, parse through kind of the privacy issues, and then kind of presenting all that into an aggregate base for us. So we have those data for us as well. For parking, it is a little different. The couple data points that we did was around kind of the church area and Nealon parking area. So we have video surveys of the parking lot, and we were kind of out there. I think one or two Sundays when church was in service as well. We don't have currently any data on the minor street, but I think
Okay.
that's something that we do intend to collect as part of the post-trial data.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay, okay, that's useful. Okay. And then another clarifying question I had was, is staff saying then in this, that the time frame or time of year that the baseline data was captured sort of squares up relatively to the time of year you're capturing the post-pilot data? And is that important to you?
Yeah, I would say generally speaking, yeah. So the baseline data, so the kind of the pre-pilot data, if you will, those were collected late 2022/early 2023. So I think from a time frame standpoint,
Yeah.
it certainly will kind of drive from a. The only thing I would say to that would be kind of that seasonal difference, right? Kind of the warmer weather, you get more activity outdoor
Yeah.
versus colder weather. But I think from a pre versus post comparison standpoint, I think that the data are going to be fairly well within a reason from a seasonality standpoint.
So if I'm understanding correctly, it sounds like the gathering of post-pilot data will occur in early 2024, but it won't occur sort of again in like a warmer weather time. Doesn't seem there's no need for that.
We certainly could. What I would, if that's a desire of the commission, that can certainly be one of the feedbacks tonight. What I would say to that is we can certainly, once we have the February, because our recommendation is to collect most of our data in February, except the survey where we're going to open it up a little bit longer. I would say to give us a chance to look at the February data, see what that
Of
means,
course.
and then we can. But if
Okay.
that one of the feedback is, use that February data to determine whether or not we need additional data, that is certainly a feedback that we'll take from you tonight.
Okay, just have a couple more. Where it says parking occupancy, I just want to make sure where it says post-pilot collection period next to parking occupancy, that as well is also in that February 2024 time period. It didn't mention that. And then also, when it says 2 Sundays, it sounded to me like that was probably going to be like a Sunday morning collection because of the church. But I wondered if it's worth it to also gather parking occupancy data post-pilot on the weekend, like in the afternoon, maybe when more people use the park.
No, yeah, I think that's a great question, and that's partially the reason why we decided to have 2 Sundays.
Okay.
Recognizing that church service, obviously there's a set time. However, with Nealon Park and potentially Lyle Park, their activities might be a little different in terms of the time frame, and it might just not, it won't line up correctly. We don't assume. So our intent here with the 2 Sundays is to be able to kind of pick the 2 highest demand that we think, recognizing that some of the church services or versus Nealon Park usage might not coincide at the same time. But our intent here is to choose 2 time periods where the use is maximum along the corridor.
Okay, thanks. That actually answers, I think, another clarifying question I had, which is in notes, under the table 1 notes, number 2, where it says Sunday counted on days with parking demand from the New Community Church and Jack Lyle Parks. I wondered if you left Nealon off there by mistake, because I think you were going to be looking at Nealon.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, just want to clarifying question.
Yep. Mhm.
And then, yes, the other clarifying question I had was with regard to the proposed outreach, the bullet points in the middle of the page. And it says postcard to Middle Avenue residents, property owners, and businesses. And I wondered if the scope of the postcard would be, by and large, the same as when you sent out the survey. I guess that was to early 2022 or maybe late 2021 when you sent out the survey, because I think I received this survey originally around Middle Avenue, and I'm obviously not a resident. So I just wondered if you were intending to do this same sort of scope of mailing of the postcard.
So with the postcard, our intent is to notify the residents, and the survey being available both online and a hard copy if requested. Yep.
So I'm sorry, you mean that the postcard will go to Middle Avenue residents?
Right. So it'll be basically everybody along Middle Avenue, either a resident, property owner, which they may or may not live on Middle, and then obviously any business, so like the church, Little House, etc., that's along Middle Avenue would all receive a postcard.
Okay, so I'll leave that as a clarifying question. And let me see if I have anything else. Sorry. Yes, I did. My last clarifying question was in the presentation. There was the map that you showed. I don't know if you could back up a couple slides or.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I just wanted to, went on, okay, thank you. It went a bit quickly and I couldn't see whether you're going to be looking at parking. Sorry, what did I write here? An arbor. Hold on one second. Let me just look where I am. Goodness, I live here and I can't even see it. Arbor. Yes, I think you are. Okay, so where you have that red segment, that's counting traffic, right?
That's correct. We'll be counting cars, and then at select locations, we'll also be counting bikes as well.
Okay, so this is just traffic counts, not parking. Okay, and my mistake. Sorry. All right, thanks. I'm done.
Yeah, I have 2 clarifying questions. I remember when this pilot initially was approved, but I don't recall if there was explicit direction from the city council to have the pilot be evaluated on certain grounds, or if it was just, let's do a pilot and see what happens. If there was specific direction, could you remind me? And if there wasn't, then that's fine.
Yeah, so as part of, I think there's at least 2 or 3 staff reports where part of the attachment was a memorandum that we prepare that sort of outline a general idea of what we wanted to do with the pilot. And at that time, I think we identified many of the things that I've shared here as well. And generally speaking, I think the city council was in favor of that memorandum. So we've been using that as the baseline to develop the kind of the methodology that is before you tonight.
I pulled that out tonight over the meeting
Yeah.
because I wanted to be reminded of that. And I just wanted to mention that in the October 22nd, excuse me, make sure I got that right. Sorry, October 18th of 2022 is the meeting where the city council approved the pilot of removal of both bike lanes. There was a table that you presented in the staff report that said in fall 2023, collect during the pilot data around counts, speeds, parking, conduct public meetings and survey. And then from January to March 2024, it said additional data collection if needed, return to commission and city council to review pilot and confirm permanent design. So you did outline the elements of them.
Great. My second clarifying question is, what is the current policy of garbage bins as it pertains to the bike lane?
I think generally they're just curbside pickup. What I've noticed is that residents will bring them out during the day. The garbage trucks will come pick them up, and then whenever the residents return home, they'll bring the bins in. So it kind of varies depending on kind of when the residents return home. But generally speaking, it's curbside pickup.
But that's in the bike lane?
Yeah, typically it will be in the bike lane. Yeah.
Okay.
Any more clarifying questions? Okay. Matthew, can you please call for general public comment on this item?
Yes, thank you, Chair. For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raise hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or a cell phone, press star 9 to raise your virtual hand. If you are participating in person, please wait for the chair to call your name. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. I see one virtual raised hand from the phone number ending in 3649. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Oh, hi. So my name's Neil Wolf. I live on Middle. I spoke earlier. I'm calling in so I couldn't see all the slides, so I don't know if this was addressed. It's my understanding that the pilot's ending at the original end date and that hasn't been moved. Could you comment on that? And then I'll continue. Possible.
I'm sorry if I hear you correctly, sir. You're asking for the end date of the pilot?
Yeah, it was supposed to run for 9 months, and my understanding is that now it's shrunk and it's only going to be conducted during what is essentially the rainy season, when the use of the street and Nealon Park drops to like a very small percentage of what it is in the summer. Understood.
Yeah, no, that's certainly not our intent. I think we are recommending data collection for February, but our intent is for the pilot, if it needs to be extended a little bit longer, that is certainly something that is that we will consider. We're not saying that it's going to end in February.
Okay, so my essential comment is that I feel like, at least in winter, the use of Nealon Park and Middle Avenue is maybe 25% of what it is in summer. And I know I live directly across from Nealon Park. Currently, even on like poor weather days, I go up there and there is not one parking spot available for the whole park by like 9:30 in the morning. And there's people parked in the wood chips off of the parking lot. And then my last comment is that when you redid the handicap parking, it's not ADA compliant. You removed the one. There was 3 total parking spaces. You removed the one van accessible parking spot. And currently the park puts all of their trash cans in the handicap aisle between it. So it renders all the parking spots like non-compliant. And then I would like you guys to comment on the possibility of removing the exclusivity of the back parking lot for Nealon Park. That's for Little House. It's currently from 8 a.m. till 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. And in the winter, that leaves almost no parking for the park as it closes at sundown. So that leaves like 2 hours of parking in any ADA compliant parking spots. All right, thank you.
Thank you. There's also a virtual raised hand from Aaron M. You should be able to unmute now.
Thanks so much. A couple clarifying questions. Anecdotally, as a Middle Ave resident, I've noticed that traffic backup has worsened with long lines, particularly at El Camino and San Mateo. Counting the number of vehicles and bikes is very different from measuring the amount of backup. So I was curious, how do you plan to collect data on the amount of traffic buildup? I'll just go through the questions, and if you'd like me to clarify later, I can. The parking ban has also pushed vehicles to all the side streets, and it seems like they're now much less safe. And it feels like the pilot would be a failure if side streets become much less safe. I was wondering if you could clarify whether your data collection includes the side streets. And also, I haven't heard any discussion on pedestrians, but many of us walk on these streets. So I was curious if you plan to collect data on pedestrian use. And then the last question was, I've noticed that the ban has not been enforced, especially at Nealon Park. And so I was curious how we can trust the data if cars have not adopted their behavior, and what we're doing to ensure that the ban is enforced. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. I see Randy. You should be able to mute now.
Good evening, all. Randy Avalos, District 5. I just want to echo the earlier first commenter public. The no longer ADA compliant. That's rather concerning and a bit infuriating that that's done. So hopefully that's addressed immediately. But regarding the study designed, this vague early 2023 collection of data and then a February 2024 comparison, kind of hand-waving seasonal effects. Like there absolutely are seasonal effects, and it's when we're going to undercount the benefits to bicyclists in February 24 because of the cold weather. We're also going to most importantly, when there's conflicts with parking and park use, we're also undercounting the park use. So we want to really understand the trade-offs from a city perspective, and that's what I would hope we're trying to capture. And February and sometime vague early 2023 it's just the wrong time. It was the wrong data. So I'm not sure how helpful this is going to be. But yeah, really understanding when there's conflicts, when parking's full, how does that go out? When the bicycle lanes are used at capacity, those peak times are most important, and February is not a peak time. Thank you. Oh, and once again, ADA compliance is kind of a big deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Shani, you should be able to unmute now.
Thanks so much. Shani Podell, Flood Triangle, so District 2. I wanted to say that I really appreciate the city and the council's effort to try to make the streets safe for bicyclists. I have 2 kids in public school. One bikes to Hillview, the other one's at MA now, but it's been a sketchy situation the whole time. So I appreciate the effort to make our streets safer. However, I will say that I don't feel safe when I park at Nealon Park now. I play tennis there a lot. I play pickleball sometimes. Currently, if you look at it, with 4 pickleball courts and 4 tennis courts, that's potentially 32 cars of people if everybody drove separately. That's a lot of parking spots. And right now there aren't very many, in that surrounding area. I've been utilizing the parking that's along Middle Avenue, the parallel parking spots, during the weekdays, and on the weekends. And I can't tell you how many times I've felt that my life was actually in jeopardy just trying to get out of my car. There's just not a lot of space. It's very, very tight. Not only the parking spots themselves, but just when I swing open my door into the street and I go to get out, it's really unsafe. So I'm not feeling safe parking there. However, there's such a shortage of parking. I'm not sure where to go. And I can't say I know what the answer is, but I'm not sure we have quite the right formula yet. I don't know if it's possible to maybe move those parking spots over a bit so we were like a bit closer to the sidewalk. I just feel very exposed when I'm parking. And then I try to get out of my car. The other piece of it too is it's also backing up traffic. It's very difficult for me to stop and back into parallel park in those spots, especially because they're so tight, but it also backs up all the traffic behind. And people are still driving kind of quickly. And frankly, it's a busy road and they're impatient. So I'm sorry, I feel badly to bring this up, but I'm not sure we found the right formula. And I know someone mentioned, a few of you, that you live across the street. I can imagine for the people that live there, having all this traffic backup and stuff, like maybe isn't a perfect formula either. So thank you.
Thank you. ATE, you should be able to unmute now.
Hi, my name is Anna and I live on Middle. So there's a couple of things I want to address. So I'm also a pickleball player and tennis player, and the parking in front of the tennis courts as well as the pickleball courts has been very frustrating. And like Shani, it is very dangerous. I'm surprised with the facts presented here that nobody has mentioned New Beginnings preschool as well as the co-op preschool. They have virtually almost very, very little parking for these kids to safely get in and out of. And so I think that needs to be in consideration. My kids went to school at the preschool there, and I talked to the director, and she has said nobody has come to her to ask their opinion. So I strongly suggest that you get the opinions of those families that are going in and out of that parking lot every day during the school year. So that needs to be in consideration, needs to be put for this survey. I mentioned that I do live on Middle, but on the other end of Middle, closer to Cotton. And it's been nice to see the kids come through in the morning during commute times. Unfortunately, because of the wider roads, the speeding of the cars coming on the road is really, really bad. So bad that recently a kid was hit. Maybe 2 doors down from us. There was also an accident where a car hit our house. Again, it's made the roads wider so the cars go faster. And these are outside of commuting hours. So I really think the parking should be done during the hours of commuting only. So for example, 7:30 to 9 or so, something like that. And then have the parking back, because the cars are coming down well over the speed limit. And it's very, very scary. You can look at the police reports and see accidents are happening. Alone on the other end of Middle, at least 4 in this past summer, in the past couple of months. So we are watching as neighbors along the street, and we're hoping that we can get some better resolution than with the parking currently that's been done. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no more virtually raised hands, I return the meeting to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Commissioners?
There you go. Sure. Okay, I have a number of different pieces of feedback. The first kind of general meta point that I would like to emphasize, and maybe it's solvable, maybe it's not. In the science world and professional world, if you do an experiment, there should be some sense of what information would lead to a go, no-go decision afterward. So right now, the proposal is to collect a lot of data, and then we'll see the data, and then we will vaguely potentially make some decision based off of that data. But right now, there's no framework that's been established to say, these are the things we're looking for in order to then decide whether or not the pilot succeeds or fails. And so I don't know if that has to come from City Council itself or can come from staff for the Complete Streets Commission, but having a go, no-go framework to say, if we see that traffic has increased in certain ways, or if we see that safety has decreased in certain ways, or speeds or various things like that, what are we looking for in order to then actually make the decision would be useful. Other kind of things, in terms of the actual evaluation, one recommendation, which is kind of pertains to my previous clarifying question, can garbage bins be part of the evaluation to see if that is safe or unsafe? Can, like, one of the days that people go out and collect information be on a garbage bin day, just to see if those are blocking bikers safely, or if they're having to veer into car traffic or things like that. I know that it's an issue with a lot of bike lanes. With parking occupancy, I know that one of the criteria or one of the evaluation metrics was just going to be the number of parked cars. I would love for it to be in percentages. Raw numbers don't, and even with traffic volume, the raw numbers that we've seen published so far, they don't give me a lot of context. What would be more useful is thinking about like cars per hour, cars per day, or what percent of parking spots are currently used up, right? If someone says there were 100 parked cars, I don't know how to think about that versus there are 100 parked cars and there are 102 spots. So it was very, very full. In terms of the survey, just a couple quick things. I think it'd be great if you had a QR code that linked directly to the survey, and that were on posters, and that way people could very quickly just look it up and go straight there. Then there are two specific questions. Question number 2 has a typo, and it's also the only question with a number. None of the others have numbers. In the survey itself, or at least the proposed survey in the agenda packet, there's a question number 2, and the first word just has a typo. And then there's a question about biking that asks, do you bike on Middle Avenue more now that there are bike lanes on the street? And it's a simple yes or no question. I think it'd be useful to get the answer of I bike more or less or the same, just to be able to differentiate the nuance between people who are biking less for one reason or another versus people who are biking the same. And that's all I had on the survey. And then just a couple general comments, reacting to a couple of the public comments here. Totally agree on ADA parking spots. I think when the conversation around parking affects people with disabilities, I am almost always in favor of kind of making sure that we always have enough or even more than enough of handicap parking spots. And then, one of the public comments talked about how swinging their door while parallel parking out into the street was really unsafe. And kind of my only comment on that is that's part of the reason why we put the bike lane and prevented the parking in the first place, because those parked cars were swinging their doors out into bikers riding beside them, which is particularly unsafe. And I think that's all I have.
Hello, thank you, Ross. So I agree with, I'll start with the comments from the public. I agree with Ross about ADA. And I had written down a note to myself about the preschool. I believe the preschool she referred to was the one that's associated with the church. I believe. No. There's 2 preschools. Thanks. So I had written down that we should checking with them as well. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else here that they said that I wanted to. Well, one person asked about will data collection include safe streets? So I think, Kevin, did you say yes? I don't remember. Sorry. We'll make sure the person in the public knows that that's the case.
I'm sorry.
So a
data
member of the
collection-
public had said, one of his questions was, will data collection include the side streets?
Right, yes.
So
We
you-
will
okay.
definitely include data collection from a volume standpoint. I think the one note that I made was collision on the side streets. So that is something that I noted, and we'll make sure to collect that type of data as part of the collision data as well. Because I think the feedback was, making sure that the side streets don't suffer as a result of this. So
Yeah.
I made a note of that,
Yeah.
and we'll include that as part of the collision evaluation. Yeah.
Okay, so other notes I made to myself while the people were making public comments that are separate and apart from the evaluation methodology that you presented tonight is there a way, what is the timing for the assessment of the back parking lot of Nealon and the potential restriping or whatever the approach is going to be there to maximize the number of spaces? Because that obviously is directly correlated to people's evaluation of whether Nealon parking is working. So I'm just curious if I'm sorry, I don't mean to minimize it. It doesn't sound like a massive project. I'm just wondering if there's, what's the timing of that?
No, yeah, that's a great question. It is something that we're currently working with the consultant on, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
We are looking at that right now. We're hoping to be able to at least have some preliminary results soon. Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's encouraging. I think when I think about that parking lot, it's not a direct analogy with the new community centers parking lot, but there are sort of shared uses. And I wonder if it's worth looking at evaluating times of day and what is the occupancy rate relative to the people visiting Little House? Because if they're maybe, I don't want to get into a sensitive area here, but like maybe there's a way we could block out spaces there for public use that aren't being used currently. So I just thought we should look into that. Another thing, okay, yeah, now I'm getting Nealon, when she was talking about the opening of the doors and everything else. So from the photo that you showed in the slide deck, it looked to me that, because I haven't looked at this in person yet on Nealon, but the bikers are going between the cars and the park in that case, right? So should there be striping there to make that super, super clear? Because the only thing I worry about is if they're already this tight space about opening your door into traffic, I wouldn't want bikers biking next to the cars between the parked cars and the traffic.
So in this case, what's in front of Nealon Park, the bike lane is actually behind, or not behind, to the right
Yeah.
of the parking. Yeah. So in this case, there is a buffer area between the parked cars passenger side and the bike lane.
Yeah.
So when you're on the passenger side and you're swinging a door, you essentially will be swinging into a buffer area. So, and then also the bike lane along that stretch is pretty wide. So it's not, I think the condition there is pretty safe. I think the feedback that I got from one of the residents was on the driver's side, where it's a little bit closer to the street. They don't feel as
Right.
safe opening the door from the driver's side. So that is something that, and I think the feedback that I got from her was perhaps looking into pushing the parking stalls a little bit more inward. So we'll look into that.
And so just to clarify that where the bikers are isn't like a level above where the cars are, they're level, okay? So it's not a curb, you could move it over?
They're about, so there's a valley gutter right now separating the parking spot and the bike lane.
Okay.
So it's not too difficult to shift it
Okay.
inward a little bit. So
Okay.
that is something that we'll evaluate and look into, yeah.
Thank you. I guess what I was getting at when I said stripe the bike lane was, is it clear to bikers that if it's clear, that's fine. Okay. Okay.
Yep.
I wasn't sure. Okay. So generally, I think for me, from general feedback, I think there's two. The survey was fine, in my opinion. There were sort of two buckets for me. And one was the timing of the evaluation, the survey, and the scope. How many people we will say, hey, fill out the survey, And so for timing, I understand the value of doing the survey at around the same time that it was done the previous year, where there was no pilot installed, right? So I understand why February is an attractive time to do it. So we have apples to apples. But I do agree with the folks on the phone that, the public comments that I think I anticipate the results being different during summer months, especially around the parks. I think that's an important thing for us to collect data around. So my personal recommendation there would be that we do plan to do additional data collection in the early summer of 2024. The other question I had around timing was, when will the traffic calming additional measures be installed? Because I think it would be ideal to get wait. I think it'd be ideal to get, feedback around how people are feeling about the pilot with those measures installed. So for example, when the woman's talking about the speed, right, that would obviously hopefully be reduced. So is it possible to, well, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is no.
Okay.
We can't start on the traffic calming measures until the pilot's done and we have direction.
I see.
So those
Okay,
won't be
pardon.
installed until we have a final direction,
Okay.
because we can't do them twice.
Okay, sorry.
So, yeah.
Did not know that.
Can I just quickly ask a question? on
course.
that? Do you believe that the traffic calming measures that have currently been approved but not yet implemented will solve some of the concerns that we received by public comment?
Yeah, I think as we went through the process and we did the whole sort of planning part of this, we felt really good about their ability to reduce speeds in particular. So yeah, we feel good about this.
I think when I think about the timing of the survey as well, it would be ideal if the survey was timed. That's why I was talking about traffic calming measures at a point in time where we were able to measure the goals we were trying to achieve, right? The benefits we were trying to affect. And one of the things that comes to mind is regard to Middle Plaza. So when we were talking originally, obviously as a commission and the council as well and everything, about, why we're doing this project and what are the benefits and everything else, well, part of the conversation was looking to the future and saying, when Middle Plaza comes online, this is going to be a really major corridor. And of course, the underpass and everything else. I know that's in the future, but I just was curious, is Middle Avenue online now? When do we expect it to be, full occupancy with its residents, et cetera? Because I think what we were trying to do is anticipate increased demand by putting this into place. And so we should be measuring the measures against the increased demand if possible.
Yep. So they are, I don't know that we'll ever know about what their occupancy is, but they are definitely for a while now have been renting those apartments or townhomes or whatever they are. And people do actually live in Middle Plaza now, and I'm sure it'll be some period of time it takes to ramp up. But I think by the time we're thinking about collecting data, there should be substantial use. Now, I don't know about 100% of you. There's commercial, there's office space. It may or may not all be used. We can't really control for that. We just have to do the best we can. But yeah, it's not like was last year when it was just a site under construction. It's in active use now.
Okay.
And
Well,
the
I think
tunnel would be great, right? Absolutely, because
Yeah.
that'll produce a lot
Absolutely.
more use, especially people walking and biking.
Absolutely.
But that's if we were
Always
waiting
off.
that long, that's a long pilot.
Yeah. Okay. But I do feel open about extending the pilot, of course, beyond February. So in terms of the scope of the survey, I think similarly to the timing, I just want to make sure that we are asking people that we expected to benefit from these changes to tell us what they think. And we really did talk about Middle Avenue at the time we were looking at this last year as just a major corridor of Menlo Park that, was very, very high use and important to a lot of people. There was a woman on the phone who was talking about using the pickleball courts, but she started out her comment by saying, I'm a District 2 and my child bikes to Hillview, right? So there are a lot of people who use Middle who don't live on Middle. And I just want to make sure that we're really cognizant of that, because it's a bit like what I was saying about living on Santa Cruz, was realizing in the course of, they're installing sidewalks and making Santa Cruz a lot safer for bikes and pedestrians, bicyclists and pedestrians. It just taught me that, as a homeowner, I didn't get to control Santa Cruz. It was a road that was really for everyone in Menlo Park. And that's how I thought of Middle as well, given all its many uses. So I guess that's probably the one aspect of the report that I I don't want to say disagreed with the most, but made me say, are we making sure that we're, doesn't have to be that physical survey, but are we making sure we're reaching out enough to people who use Middle? And I was concerned that, signs on the street or a postcard just to the residents wasn't doing enough, in my opinion. And I don't know whether that means, I also wrote down, like Ross, flyers with QR codes, stuck up on the poles. But I don't know if kids will see those. So do we like put a stack of surveys in the front desk of Oak Knoll School? I don't know, but I think we should really think about this because we meant to intend to benefit a lot of people. And I want to hear from those people and see if what we did, in fact, had the result we intended.
I was going to say, we are going to rely on the Oak Knoll's fabulous reading teacher to get the word out and make sure that we get, one thing I would just observe is that like everything we're talking about doing is consistent with what we did last time. And we heard from 700 people and we heard from people all over the city and we heard from people of all groups. The one group that's been hard in anytime we do a survey that's hard for us generally to reach are the kids. And so, we'll work through the schools to try to get the word out. We'll definitely, do our best there, but it is just a little bit harder to hear directly from them. We hear from the parents pretty frequently, and then occasionally some of the parents will force their kids to come talk to city council or you guys.
Yes, that happened.
Which we love. It's great. It is great to hear. And it is really, really powerful, I think, and useful to hear their perspective. They have a very different perspective, obviously. So we're definitely going to try to get the word out to everybody as part of this.
And I guess it's probably a point worth making, which is when we mail out to residents of Middle, are we reaching those small businesses or community organizations that have addresses or businesses, right on Middle, like the Little House or, the preschool or obviously the church, all those places before that we want to make sure we capture this time. I guess I would hope they get the surveys.
Yeah, no, they definitely will. We have direct contact, as a matter of fact, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Hugh's been talking with both parties.
Okay.
And then, Little House, the church, the preschool that's residing in the church. I've emailed them personally myself.
Great,
as well.
thank you,
So, yeah.
Kevin.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I have a few kind of questions and thoughts. First, I'm just gonna totally agree with the QR code link to survey. I think that's a really excellent, great way to get through people. One of the questions I had in response to a public comment was, did the lane width change when we put in these buffered bike lanes, the traffic? Did that lane width widen or narrow or not stay the same?
It stays the same. I would say the only part that have changed would be kind of in front of the first stretch between El Camino and University, because there used to be no shoulder stripe there. It's just the yellow center line. So now it does appear to be narrower simply because of the fact that there wasn't anything there before. For the rest of Middle, essentially the shoulder line, or what used to be the shoulder line, is essentially the buffer line. So that stretch stay the same.
Okay. So the amount of space that cars have to travel is the same as it always was.
Right. Again, except the
Except
El
for that
Camino to
one
University.
section. Okay.
There might be a difference in perceived space without
Right.
parked cars.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which I do understand that, but I just wanted to make sure that we hadn't made the lanes wider. One of the questions that I was curious about how we were capturing in the early feedback we got there were a lot of neighborhood complaints about people using Middle Avenue to cut through. And I'm sort of curious how on earth we capture cut through traffic. As somebody who lives in Bellhaven and regularly has to traverse across town, I've been lumped into the cut through traffic sometimes when in fact I'm just a resident trying to get across town. So I'm just curious how we capture cut through traffic and how we would know if it was less. I'll stop for just a minute.
Yeah,
have an
I would
answer.
say the first and foremost, the easiest way to tell whether or not is look at the volume, the absolute number first, just to see if there's an increase or a decrease in volume. Typically, if it stays approximately the same, then the assumption would be, you know, the cut-through traffic did not occur. If we see a significant increase in terms of the volume on a particular minor street, so in this case, we have data on Summertail, Walaya, Cotton, you know, the kind of the what we would perceive to be the major cut through. We have volumes on those, so we'll be doing a before and after comparison. If the volume did increase, then we'll essentially kind of go into maybe some other means of making sure that whether those increases were the result of, you know, additional residents around the area, or if indeed was a cut through. Big data would be a really good help to kind of resolve that issue, or at least answer part of that question.
The other part I would add to that, just out of curiosity, is as we're collecting that data, I wonder if when they're talking about cut through traffic, they're really talking about cars trying to get to Sand Hill. And so I'm curious, like, will our count also include Oak Avenue? And whatever that, is that Oak that runs? Yeah.
Yes, we do have Oak, yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
awesome. Because I know that is one of the things that came up. I could certainly attest to the traffic backup thing that's happening at the stop signs, but also I think the stop sign was a request from residents who lived along there because of the speeds and because it was not safe to cross. And so it felt like that was a direct response to concerns from people for pedestrian safety and to slow cars down. And so I can absolutely tell you that they're definitely going slower at 2 spots on that road. And the question about the survey timing, like I feel like I've been listening and still am a little bit perplexed about, I agree that we should be collecting data at roughly the same seasonal time because seasonal traffic is definitely different. So if we collected it in February, I'd love to see it in February. I would like us to make sure that we don't collect it during February break. Only because while yes, I agree that traffic sort of goes up and down depending on how warm it is, I'm pretty astounded at how many of our kids ride their bikes, rain or shine. So as a person who sometimes drives when it rains, I notice all those people that are still out on their bikes. But I would like to see, at least to be able to compare apples to apples. And then totally agree with the ADA spaces, like I would support us making some changes about that. That's really, those are all the notes that I kind of had about it. And yeah.
Sorry, I just only have one more thing. I do apologize. Very quickly. If we have a second, a collection of data, and I know, I think Neil mentioned summer months. I was just thinking, I wanted to clarify, my point of view would be to have it maybe like May, June, because then you're also capturing student biking that might increase. And if we're trying to capture a lot of Neon parking, we should, you know, also capture a lot of student bikers as well. So I didn't mean to just say maybe only in July. And also, I think, Kevin, one of your questions to the commission was, are we happy with the number of public meetings? So I thought, and to be responsive to you, we could touch on that for a moment. So the staff report says, in addition to the public feedback survey, the city will host 2 separate community meetings in early 2024. One of the community meetings will be in person and the other virtual. So my first thought is when we send out the survey, oh, sorry, if we're timing the data collection in February and in the summer, would we still do the survey only in early part of the year? Is that thinking?
I would certainly do that in early part of the summer.
Early part of the year.
Yeah.
Okay. Minor thing, but if there's a possibility in the survey to say the date of the meeting, that's another way of getting people out there, because I know it's hard. I know when we put dates of meetings on the big changeable signs, sometimes people don't see that. But I just wanted to ask that, get the commission's point of view around do we think that 2 community meetings, one in person and one virtual? Sounds like you're thinking of those meetings as being maybe kind of in a February, March timeframe? Kind of January, February, March around there?
That's correct, yeah. And partially is to be able to let people that, don't normally attend, commission meetings or et cetera, to kind of come to a different venue. And then also just an opportunity for us to tell them that, hey, there's a survey that's currently available.
Okay, good.
And hopefully they'll then be able to jump on the survey at that time.
Okay,
So
that's
just
great. I like
another
that, combining
avenue
both.
for us to be able to kind of broadcast the availability of the survey.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in person, we were thinking about it being, I remember last time it was maybe on a Thursday night, I think. It was like a Thursday night,
Oh,
Wednesday night or something.
Wednesday night or Thursday night, yeah.
And it was raining and it was, where was it again? It was.
Neelam Park.
It was in Neelam
in the
Park.
tennis court.
And you had a little tennis.
Yeah, yeah.
court.
it was
Okay,
the little
okay.
Tents and
So I like the idea of having an in-person thing being right in the middle of middle. I think that makes sense. And so I vote yay for that. Given that people, have different schedules, some people free in the night, free in the day. Could we consider, I don't know, would you consider maybe doing 2 meetings, one in the night, one in the day, or did you feel like good enough output? Because I'm assuming would the virtual one be during the day?
yeah, no, I mean,
okay.
the
So maybe that
details
way.
to be determined, but our idea is to be able to capture different
Good.
for people,
Good.
different availabilities, et cetera. So
Okay.
we wouldn't try to stack the 2 meetings around the same time frame
Okay.
of the day, et cetera. So we'll try to
That makes sense. All
spread
right.
it out to capture as many people as possible. Yeah.
I think 2 well-advertised meetings at 2 different times of the day would be a good thing. I would probably look at local school calendars to make sure we're not doing one in the middle of some break or something. And also, I guess if you feel it's helpful, I think it'd be great for commissioners to come and to be either or both if they can and hear the feedback directly. But I'm good with the meetings plan and be curious if other commissioners feel the same.
I have one more question. I feel like I should know this answer, but I don't. The Neelam Park, there are bike racks, easy to, like obvious and easy to find. Is this true? Like in front of the park?
There are some bike racks currently available. As a matter of fact, we've been looking at some of the space that we created to see if there's an opportunity to add more bike racks, but there are a couple bike racks available. Yes.
Okay, good. I really I think a lot about partly, of course, I want the bike racks available because bikes can park there, but also I've just become keenly aware as I ride around town and try to stop places, how many places we have like entire blocks with no actual place to lock your bike up. And I find that it's hard to like encourage biking if when you get there, we don't really have a place for you to be. And so I think it's worth like someday I'd love to see like a bike rack audit because I'm that nerd now.
I have a clarification question about like kind of a point of order for the pilot program. Is the pilot in effect until it's stopped, or is there a specific expiration date after which it has to revert to normal unless the pilot is extended?
Yeah, there's no definitive timeline for the pilot. I just mentioned 6 months being the minimum, but as many of the residents here have mentioned and commissioners as well, extending it beyond to the summertime certainly is something that's on the table.
But when the pilot was initially passed, was there a time frame for it, or it's just pilot until it's not?
Yeah, at the time of the discussion, I think we had wanted the pilot to be able to start doing the school year. However, as we all know, that did not quite happen. At that time, our direction, at least that we got from the city council at the time, is get it in, but then extend it as necessary, kind of knowing the seasonality, the school traffic, et cetera, et cetera. So we did get direction to be able to extend it if necessary. There was no definitive timeline, so to speak.
And maybe just to be real specific, as a legal matter, the parking is removed permanently unless city council tells us they want it unremoved. So effectively, the pilot, it is what it is and would only change if we get specific direction to change it.
Got it. Commissioners Coleman or Ullman want to have any comments? I have another thing, but I want to save time for you guys. See, a couple of public comments were concerned about parking specifically for Nealon Park. Even without doing our real-time data gathering, in theory, right now, we should know how many theoretical parking spots there are within a quarter mile of Nealon Park, right? I mean, there's the parking lot, but there's also the side streets, and we took away those on Middle, but there are still streets, and I know there's a back entrance around Nealon. And so it might be nice just to get an order of magnitude of, within a 2-block radius of the park or of the tennis courts or anything like that. There are 300 parking spots that are never fill. And I know that we kind of usually have an expectation that you should be able to park within 30 feet of where you're going, but we don't necessarily need to maintain that at all times. And then I guess the last thing, I'll just kind of continue my soapbox around traffic backup concerns. Biking is faster. So for people who want to ride on this beautiful bike lane in Middle, if you see a lot of traffic and you're stuck in the traffic, biking will get you to where you need to go in much less time.
Do we have any other, I guess we're at the place, is this a motion and second to adopt a resolution?
I don't need
Are
a
we-
motion. I think we
Okay.
have received plenty of information and feedback from the commission. So unless there's any additional feedback, I would like to at least maybe take an opportunity to answer some of the additional questions that I got from the residents that
Yeah.
didn't quite mention.
Good.
So I apologize. I'm kind of going through my scratching
right.
notes here. So
Yes, please.
so I think we talked about the end date of the pilot, seasonality of the data collection, and then kind of the usage of parking, even currently at the weekend. The 88 spot. So the 88 spots, we did notice that the parking, the access aisles are currently being blocked by the garbage bins. That is something that we're working with our team on. So hopefully we'll get that resolved sooner rather than later. There was a feedback about kind of van spacing. So I'll look into that if we need to expand that a little bit more to address the van dimensions. We definitely have the room capacity to do so. So I'll look into that for sure. There was a comment about queuing, but at Middle and El Camino Real. So just a note that we didn't make any changes at El Camino and Middle. We may have reduced the turn pocket a little bit, but we didn't really change the capacity as a whole lot. So I don't know if the resident was speaking at a different location. Just wanted to make sure. We did notice, some queuing along University, but at least anecdotally, my observation has been that all the queuings are going straight. So it wasn't a result of straight and right turning cars. So the queue would have been there even if they had a right turn lane. At least anecdotally, that was my observation, but we'll continue to do that as part of the data collection. Pedestrian usage, we definitely, part of the survey is to focusing on crossing environment for the pedestrians. So crossing Blake, crossing Cotton, crossing Olive, et cetera, not necessarily walking on Middle, because as part of this project, we're just focusing on kind of crossing safety and the bike safety, but not necessarily sidewalks. So just kind of clarifying that. Some vehicle to side
Sorry,
streets.
Kevin, was that the person who said, what about pedestrians? Is that what you're responding to?
Right, yep.
So I think one of the answer to that in part, I thought, was that the survey does cover pedestrian experience.
It does, but
Yeah,
from
okay.
from a crossing standpoint rather
I
than
see.
a long Middle standpoint, yeah.
Okay.
Some compliance, definitely. We are working with our PD on compliance as well, recognizing that they are definitely short-staffed, as many of our divisions are, but they are doing everything they can to kind of help us out with compliance. Seasonality, safer street, yep. Traffic, yeah. Speeding more. There's a question about speeding relative to the wider street. So again, that some of the traffic calming measures that we're hoping to implement should have a direct effect on speeding. Yeah, that would be as Hugh mentioned, after the decision on the pilot itself. There was some questions or some feedback about additional collisions that have occurred within the last few months. So we'll definitely reach out to PD to kind of get those data beforehand, just to make sure there's nothing jumps out. I think that's all the ones that I got from the residents.
There's one thing that sort of a global issue that I just want to comment on quickly, which is about, sort of when we're doing data collection and the timing of the pilot and one thing and another. And I think that a couple things to keep in mind about this are, one, right, there is this sequence of events for us for this project about, doing some data collection, installing the pilot, we've done that, now doing the data collection, reporting back to you, reporting back to city council, those are decisions that have to be made, and then moving into a final project. So if that stretches out really long, then the long-term project gets bumped an entire year because we start to run into construction window issues. So we really do have a little bit of constraint on what we can do, and it's important not to let it go too far. That being said, I'm a little less concerned, I think personally, professionally, about, if we did data collection on volumes and things like that at one time of year, I don't think we're going to learn a lot repeating that at another time of year. There might be some variance. We can look at some of the big data we have. We can look into that, but I don't know that maybe to Commissioner Silverstein's point would have a meaningful impact on a decision we would recommend or that would be made. However, the parking question, which I think is going to be the big question for most of this, is something where we're not constrained by a certain time of year. We already obviously are looking at that. It's a little more anecdotal. We're taking input we hear from people, you and the public, obviously, and we're out there frequently and looking at what things are like. We're hearing, I think the folks at Little House are doing daily counts. So we'll have a lot of information about what the parking lot in the park looks like and other stuff too. So that's something that, we don't have to think about each item as there's one thing that's happening. It's not monolithic, I guess, right? It's sort of different parts of it. We can get more or less information. And the parking is certainly one where, we anticipate, we knew it was going to be a concern. Not surprising. It'll probably get a little more attention from us. And if we need to go out an extra day, that's pretty straightforward to get a little more information. And then, we can bring that back. And I think that'll help the process move a little bit more efficiently. Whereas sending out a vendor to put out the tubes and do the counts and the cameras and all that stuff, that's a little bit more labor involved and time involved. And then we got to wait for the data to get processed, one thing and another. That can really add, a few months, and a few months can be the difference between we hit the 2025 construction window or we don't. So in terms of the whole process. So I know it seems like a lot. It seems like, well, that shouldn't be a big deal, but there's design work and one thing and another that has to take place as part of all that. So we can definitely work around some of the issues and constraints, and 100% agree with the folks who've written in or called and said, we want to make sure that we're thinking about what those maximum times of usage are. So we will absolutely do that. I think some of the reasons why we as staff might want to be a little bit vague about the timing of things is that, we'll work around weather and one thing's another. We're expected to have a very wet winter. If it's really, really wet and it's raining all January and February, guess what? We're not going to go do data collection then. We're going to push it. So, we'll work around the constraints that exist and try to make a great set of information for when we bring this back.
Hugh, what is the theory behind the case of how this data collection might inform? I'm kind of going back to my original decision. If we find that roadway volume goes up or down, what does that mean? Or if speeds are up or down, what does that mean? We're talking about removing parking and adding a bike lane. And, of the 6 things that we're going to measure, one of them is about parking occupancy and one of them is public feedback survey. The others are, we're talking about intersection volume and things like that. And I don't know what, at least even the theoretical, if we see this, that means the pilot's successful. I just can't even. Can you paint that picture?
Yeah, sure. Happy to try to help. And I definitely heard your comment. I think it's a great comment. I think, to the extent that we were directed to do a pilot, we wanted to make sure we were looking at and providing information and feedback. I don't think there is a go, no go point that we could point to as staff and say, definitely, this means we, you know, I mean, obviously if like nobody complains about parking, then sure, that maybe is that's easy, but you know, that's not too realistic. So, you know, I think what we need to do is get the information. Ultimately, it's a decision maker question. But there's another thing going on, which is that the pilot, whether or not the pilot moves forward as is or gets modified is one question. If there are these kind of spillover effects, like then those are things that we can also try to address. So if we're seeing a lot of people cutting through on other streets as a result of this, like, okay, so then maybe we need some traffic calming to help kind of address some of those things. Or if we're seeing some of the side street issues or a lot more parking and people kind of walking to get to vehicles, and we need to think about, okay, are those locations we need to prioritize for other kinds of things. So it's not just like, does the pilot work or not, but like, how does the pilot work and what are there different new challenges that we're learning about? So, you know, I think we can use the information in a variety of ways to help us. And then, like I say, ultimately, it's something that, you know, we will take in the data, make a recommendation, you know, get your feedback on that, and then ultimately make a recommendation, and council make a decision on whether or not they want to continue with this approach or kind of go back to one of the earlier options.
I have one more thing to add that I was just thinking of as you were talking about all that. When we solicit like information from the elementary school, from Oak Knoll and whatever other schools are around there, are we also asking in terms of like, do kids bike to school? Are we also asking what ages those kids are? Because I think it would be really interesting to know. I mean, if we've asked it before, it would be great because then we would know, like, are parents letting younger kids ride on the roads, or is it only older kids?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, so when we've done these surveys in the past, we've typically tried to isolate, like, are you elementary, middle, high school level? So we get that kind of distinction about who we're hearing from. Like young elementary, older elementary, we haven't, but we could differentiate. And I would say, you know, we do, and I think you are aware of this, right? Through the Safe Routes program, right? We do the hand tally kind of work. So being able to pull that stuff apart to be like, okay, this was the kindergarten number, we expect to be kind of smaller, and this is the 5th grade number, we expect to be a lot bigger, right? And seeing if that's changing, that'll be could be a really useful way to get at some of that, I think, indirectly.
I just realized in the survey questions, we ask this in a roundabout way, but there's no direct question that says, are you in favor of the pilot? Do you think we should keep it as, right? I mean, we ask, do you think it's safer or not? Do you use it more or less? And, you know, that's a lot of great information that we're gathering, but we never ask, like, what do you think? And that might be a reasonable question to just see, you know, 66% of people think X, of we should keep it or we shouldn't. And we can, you know, publish that on the wall.
We do have an open-ended question that allowed them to provide that feedback. So basically provide additional feedback on you know, about the pilot bike lane, but I don't believe we have a kind of what you mentioned, strictly yes or no, but I will kind of leave it as a more open.
I mean, if there was going to be one question and nothing more, that would probably be it.
I realized there was one more thing, which is that Commissioner Altman made that comment early on about Vision Zero branding. And I just wanted to mention that you and I were actually talking about Vision Zero branding last night. And I know that Mayor Wallison made a very impassioned comment about the value of branding it and how important she thought that was to residents understanding the reasons behind what we're doing and when they walk by construction, et cetera. So I think that's a very interesting idea about whether we should begin to talk about Middle Avenue in the context of Vision Zero, because it very much is in the context of Vision Zero. And I do think that over time, it's important to continue to educate the public about what Vision Zero is, and that it's a methodology and a philosophy that will be using across the city, and why. So I support that idea.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is just, again, it may not be popular, is if you look at this project in isolation, there's a tendency to try to simplify it. And by simplifying it, maybe the community doesn't understand all the dynamics to it. But if you roll it up just a little bit, Middle Avenue is a safe street, right? So it's part of the Safe Street corridor. And it's a high priority for Vision Zero, right? It's a high priority. It's one of those things that I think I heard last night was, you know, are there ways that we can actually accelerate moving on this, right? And so I appreciate that, you know, trying to keep it simplified, but then I think you kind of lose the context. I mean, this is an absolutely dangerous, you know, street, which comes across in the Vision Zero, as opposed to maybe parking, you know, that type of thing. So.
You know, thanks for that. I think, and for bringing that back, because I think that is really important. And we definitely are, you know, I mean, we're just kind of getting to the point where we're figuring out what we're going to do with the Vision Zero plan, right? So, but I think we do, you know, notionally want to think about branding, especially, you know, certain types of projects that we're doing, and you know, something simple that makes it clear that they're part of this larger program. Which I think Commissioner Altman's what you're saying, which, yeah, 100% agree with that. And yeah, really like that idea of making it clear, like why it is that we're doing the things that we're doing. So.
Well, unless anybody has any more comments,
So before Madam Chair, if you close the comment, I did notice the a phone number ending 3649 raised. I think it was a gentleman that spoke earlier, raised his hand again. I just wanted to let him know that unfortunately we did close the public comment period. However, staff is definitely available to chat with you. So again, my name is Kevin Chen. If you search for my name on the website, my contact info is there. Feel free to drop me an email or give me a call, and I'd be more than happy to kind of talk with you offline. But unfortunately, procedurally speaking, we can't open up the public comment period again. So I just want to acknowledge that the hand was raised, and staff would be more than happy to speak with him offline.
thank you for that. Okay, informational items. Under informational items, city staff provides an update on matters of importance to the commission. Informational items are not action items. However, a commissioner, city staff member, or member of the public may request to make a comment or ask a question on any of the informational items. The one informational item tonight is update on major project status. Kevin, can you give us an update?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So a few updates for the benefit of the commission. First and foremost, the Belhaven Traffic Calming Plan construction still ongoing. We are moving on Ivy Drive at this point, hoping to get Ivy Drive done within the next couple of weeks or so, and then moving towards Newbridge next. So making good progress there. Hopefully the residents would like the result. In terms of a Coleman and Ringwood study, staff is currently still digesting the information that we got from the October meeting. I know a couple of the commissioners were there as well. So we certainly will be reporting back with any additional information or milestones, be able to kind of inform the commission at that time. Also, happy to announce that if you're in the Willows area and you happen to either walk or ride by Willow Oaks Park, there's a project where we are, for the longest time, wanted to have a pathway that connects from Elm Street to the park. Happy to announce that a pathway is now available there. So it's a really great connection. I'm personally very happy that it got done. One of my first few projects in the city was to look at that location. So
that's great.
Have a personal connection to that location. Also, just kind of a brief announcement that the citywide shuttle system survey, we basically is about to close. So this is a survey that enhanced the citywide shuttle survey the study that's going on right now. It is set to end on November 13th, the next Monday. So if you help us spread the word, we want to again maximize the return, the response rate. Lastly, just a quick announcement that we have been successful to getting the TA, the Transportation Authority grant, which would allow us to move forward with the design of a pedestrian / bike lane improvement on Willow Row between Bay and Bayfront. So this is the part where
good.
you might have recently noticed we have a new buffer bike lane along that stretch of Middle. So this is a grant that will allow us to really look at it holistically, come up with some pedestrian and bike improvements. So very happy that we got that grant,
That's
which will allow us
fantastic.
to move forward.
Sorry, which roads are that from?
So this is Willow Row from Bay to Bayfront.
Okay,
Mhm. The Bay, yeah.
on the
Mhm.
other side.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And with that, I'll conclude my.
Let me,
Oh,
sorry,
sorry.
because one thing I forgot, and fortunately Commissioner Silverstein already mentioned this, but just to, I should have mentioned this because it's obviously very topical, but we do have public meetings for the Vision Zero Action Plan tomorrow night in Bellhaven in English, and then following Thursday. So tomorrow's the 9th, I think. And then the 16th in Spanish, we'll be having a public meeting as well. So I know probably see some folks there and really looking forward to that as we sort of continue to gather input on that and try to bring it to conclusion before the end of the year.
Can you say again, where is the meeting tomorrow?
Oh, sorry, it's at the Bellhaven Branch Library.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Both of them.
A quick minor point, but how would we, or where was that advertised? I somehow missed that.
It was in the Weekly Digest and it's been
Mhm.
mentioned at council, and we've been doing, our partner has been doing some outreach to get people there. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I cannot make it, but I wish you the best. I'll get the download.
Matthew, can you please call for public comments on this item?
Yes, thank you. For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or a cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you are participating in person, please wait for the chair to call your name. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. Seeing no virtually raised hands, I return the meeting to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. And we are on to committee, subcommittee reports. Do any subcommittees have reports for us today? Okay, on a mildly adjacent to Safe Routes to School, Oak Knoll had its bike rodeo on last week, Thursday. I had reached out to Hugh to find out if he would bring those cool traffic blocks, transportation blocks to school. And he came and led a whole, like all of our third graders came into my room. I wasn't there because I was off site. Thank you so much for
She wasn't even there.
I know, I was really disappointed to
The
miss it.
glory was not achieved.
Right? But I saw some pictures of it. It looks like it was really fun. And I was super happy to see like getting kids involved in thinking about what our roadways look like. And it also opened up a great opportunity for our parent newsletter to kind of share the role of like roadway awareness and why we're doing it and why we think it's going to help. So I totally appreciate you diving in to do that. And especially without like a helper there. So thank you. And it was nice to like have the project go out to the world.
Speaking of safe routes and Oak Knoll, the Oak Knoll School Safe Routes co-chairs are hosting a community bike ride this Sunday from Sharon Shopping Center to the farmer's market right by Trader Joe's. And so anyone can come. I know that council member Maria Dorr is going to be kind of co-sponsoring it, and she'll be on the bike ride, and anyone else who can make it can come out. And I think it's just like a fun community thing they try to do every month.
Thank you for reminding me. I've signed up to do that. So yeah, join us if you can.
Fantastic.
And I think it was very specifically like meant to not just be like an Oak Knoll thing. It's anyone in the community who wants to join the ride. Well, unless anybody else has anything else to add, I think we're at the adjournment stage. So, wait. Okay, I'm adjourning the meeting at 8:33.
Great. Thank you. Have a good night.